Welcome back, y'all, to this segment of Cutting It Up. And here we have Frank Johnson III. He is the president and CEO of EAC. Frank, finish that up for me. And what else?
The first African-American NBA sports agent in the city of Baltimore. I made black history when I became the first agent to receive a license from the NBA Players Association in 2004. That same year, I also received my NFL license and became the first African-American NFL agent in the city of Baltimore in that same year.
Wow. And tell us about FIBA.
So FIBA is a license where you are allowed to represent basketball players globally. FIBA is a license that allows you to represent players in 217 countries all over the globe. I've represented players who've played in the Czech Republic, have played in Africa, have played in Malaysia, Indonesia, Spain. They've played a plethora, played Germany, the Middle East, places like Israel. There you go.
Okay.
They played in Israel. And these players have played all over the place, man. And those guys, man, have had an opportunity to do some things, man, and see parts of the world that most people can only dream about or look at it in the textbook.
Okay, here we have it, y'all. The man, the legend, Frank Johnson III. So please stay in tune with me and don't you go nowhere on this segment of Cutting It Up. Is it something that they gotta get to, like a wake-up call, or what they say? You know, you done hit the ground level.
Gotta hit
Or
your
you
bottom.
hit your rock bottom.
Gotta hit your bottom.
I want to defeat this disease, demon, generational curse, whatever we call it.
Honestly, I don't think it's pressure so much. I feel like a lot of women go through identity crisis.
I'm taking so much on, but I forgot all about my disease. I thought I could relax and go and have a sip of wine, you know, because I was just so stressed, you know, and I needed extra help, and we didn't have a ministry like that. And I relapsed, and man, that's embarrassing. By me going for myself, I had to love myself. I had to get in line with the God of my understanding, you know, to restore me back to a life of sanity. You know, I couldn't go for my wife. I couldn't go for my respect. I couldn't go for my children. I had to really go for myself. So I want y'all to stay in tune with me on this segment of Cutting It Up. Welcome back, y'all, to Cutting It Up. And here we have Frank Johnson III as he introduced himself. So Frank, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your upbringing in Baltimore?
Okay, well, I was born and raised in East Baltimore. I started playing sports at a young age. Baseball has always been my first love. I started playing at Dewey's Little League up in East Baltimore off of the York Road area, up in that area. And then I played football in West Baltimore for Hanlon Park.
Okay.
And Hanlon Park is right off of Gwynns Fall near Mondawmin Mall in West Baltimore. And the first time I played in a Little League game, I'll never forget. I scored the first time I touched the ball.
Wow.
But I wasn't playing offense, I was playing defense.
Okay.
And and once I got that feeling of scoring and having an opportunity to be really good, I just fell in love with the game of football. And I started working on football. I went to high school, went to the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute.
Poly.
Absolutely, man. Listen, and we only lost one time while we were in high school.
That's awesome.
We lost one time in the 3 years that I played football for them, and we lost 10-0. And that's one of the only games that I can really remember vividly, because that was the only game that we weren't successful in. And it was in my senior year.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So baseball was your first love, but football just came easy to you. Tell me more.
So it came easy because, I played a lot of football, street football, at the park football.
That's right.
We played all the time. We played every day. And so by the time I got to high school, really, even before when I got to Little League, I was well versed in playing and running the ball and catching the ball, and it was just natural to me. But it wasn't a hard game. So the main thing I had to do once I started playing football on a regular basis was build my body. And I understood that if you build your body, you'll be even better than what you are. So I was an avid weightlifter, and I ran track. I tried to do everything in my power to increase my skills as a player, because I really thought I was going to make it to the NFL.
That's right. And those are dreams, but God had better plans for you. So, Frank, tell me about some of the challenges that you have growing up in East Baltimore, as far as you have young athletes coming up in a tough town, East Side, West Side, all over there, some challenges. Tell me about some of the challenges that you had growing up in East Baltimore. Okay.
So I grew up in East Baltimore off of Greenmount Avenue in the Waverly community. And a lot of my friends chose not to go to school. They chose to be on the streets. That's right. So every day I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision. Do I want to be with them and have a life that appears to be successful? Because they had all the nice cars, the money, all the girls. And here it is, I'm going to school, I'm catching the bus, going to Poly. And it looks like a car show in my community. Like they had Mercedes and Land Rovers and big trucks, but they weren't going to school.
That's right.
And I knew what they were doing. And so I had to make a decision. Do I want to be with them, or do I want to live out this dream and try to go play football? And a lot of my guys would always say, oh man, you're a school guy, man. You need to stay with school, man. That's your thing right there. And when I was younger, I didn't understand that. But as I get older, I thank them for that. Not even allowing me really to become a part of what they were involved in, because that was not my path.
That's right. To be the president and the CEO of Elite Athletes for Christ. And we know that you're a man of God. So tell us about your highlights with God, as far as when you was young in elementary, and coming up through high school, through college, and even up to now. That's your glue. Share with us, share with the viewers your relationship and your highlights with God.
So the first person that I think about is Geneva Johnson, my grandmother. My grandmother took me to church.
Yes.
And I used to go to her house on the weekend in West Baltimore. That's how I wound up playing football at Hanlon Park, because I would go over to my grandmother's house, play a game, and then stay the night at her house and go to church with her on Sunday. Right. And so she was like my foundation in introducing me to Christ. And the thing is, I always knew who God was. I went to church with my grandma for as long as I could remember. So my life had that balance in it. And she was planting seeds before I even knew what planting seeds was all about. And the thing is, when you're in an environment that's not conducive to who you're supposed to be, your foundation has to be rooted in Christ. And the funny thing about the name of the company, Elite Athletes for Christ, I didn't want to name it that. It took me a year to name it Elite Athletes for Christ. And it's EAC Global for short, but it's Elite Athletes for Christ. And one day, clearly in my prayer time, my quiet time, and God clearly told me, it's not your company, it's my company.
That's right.
And I'm like, well, that settles it. I have to name it that. Because I tried to name it. I had friends tell me, oh man, if you name your company that, you'll never be successful. They won't accept you. You can't put Christ on your name. And I'm like, well, why not? Like people believe in Christ. Why would this be an issue if the name of our company is that, when I know so many athletes who believe and they play at an elite level? And it just made sense to me to name it that.
That's right, Frank. The word of God tell us, do not be ashamed of me. He said, if you're ashamed of my name before men, that Christ, he said he would be ashamed before God. So we have to be strong in who we are and what we believe. And I've seen that you lettered in track, football, and baseball. Tell us a little bit about your football highlights.
Okay, yeah. So in football, like I said, football was always a natural sport for me.
That's right.
I always could run fast, and I was always like the fastest guy on every team that I played on. And so the football part was simple, but then I realized that I needed to run track if I wanted to play at a higher level, like in college. because everybody will be fast when you get to college.
That's right.
And so when I got hit in my eye, and had to have plastic surgery over my left eye. And I'm a right-handed batter, so that's my lead eye.
That's right.
And the doctor wouldn't clear me. That's how my track career started in high school.
Wow.
So instead of me just sulking around and not playing baseball, because I was sad that I couldn't play baseball,
right,
but I still wanted to do something, I got on the track team and I started running track. And it's amazing because of when you put your foot forward and you start walking where God wants you to go.
Yeah.
I never threw the discus a day in my life, and I placed in third in the MSA championships, throwing the disc. Like of all the kids in the city, I was the third place finisher throwing the disc. And that's one of my proudest moments in high school sports. Even more so of being a great football player, but that track accomplishment was a really hard-earned accomplishment that allowed me to be able to do what I needed to do on the track and field and contribute to my championship team, because we won the championship my 11th and my 12th grade year in track also. And so I can never forget that moment, because of it was a lot of hard work and you had a lot of practice with throwing the disc, and your form had to be perfect. Discipline. And to come in third place, as many discus throwers as there were in all those meets that we went to, and to be the third best discus thrower in the city of Baltimore my senior year, like that was a great, great accomplishment.
I notice a lot of athletes, they run track, ones that play football, some that play baseball. How does track and field illuminate other sports?
Oh, track is the true equalizer. Track is actually way harder than football. Like we would run 3 miles for a warm up, and then we would run sprints, and then we would run the cool off. I'm like, this is a lot of running.
That's right.
Just for one race that might last 15 to 20 seconds. You know, like I ran the 200. That race is a 20-second race, but for the amount of training you had to do to run that race, I'm like, man, I'm like, once I realized how, and then track teaches you how to breathe and relax when you're in a stride. And so like, I would use that in the football game. Like I'm relaxing when I'm accelerating, because I had this training from track. And so they go hand in hand, but track is truly, football is more physically like grueling on your body, but track takes a lot of dedication to be able to run at a high level for a long period of time. And
do some of the athletes that you take care of, some of your clients, do they run track with their sports? So
yeah, absolutely. Almost all the football players ran track.
Right.
Because they go hand in hand. And some of the basketball players run track because they run cross country to get ready for the basketball season. Your wind the track builds up your lung and your lung capacity and your wind. And so a lot of basketball players, they run cross country because that's a 3-mile race.
Wow.
And so if you get used to running for a long distance, you usually don't get tired running up and down a 94-foot court. So the track helps a lot with that.
I was watching, I used to enjoy watching Rip Hamilton of the Detroit Pistons. And a lot of people didn't realize he ran 10 miles a day. When Detroit went on that run with Chauncey Billups, I noticed how they couldn't keep up with him. And he even had his free throw percentage was up at 90%. So coming through high school, Frank, what prompted you to go to college? Did you always have college in your mind? You know, at what point did you decide that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to college and I'm going to take my education to a further level?
10th grade for sure. My dad was so strict with school. He was so strict.
Fatherhood.
Oh my God. He was like, if you don't get a B, then you can't play. And then he didn't let me play my 9th grade year. So I had to sit out my 9th grade year in football. And I'm watching all my friends, like, cause again, we lost one time while we were in high school. And my friends won all their games in their 9th grade year. So I could have been 39-1 in high school if I had played my 9th grade year. Because they went 10-0 also that 9th grade year. Wow. But watching them play and not being able to play, but I had to come home every day and study. And so that helped me a lot at Poly, because the work level was very rigorous at Poly, and you would have to study 2 hours a night. And so my dad's theory was, if he gets it right his 9th grade year, he should be ready by his 10th grade year. And it's crazy, I still have the weights that he brought me going into my 10th grade year. I still have those weights 30 something years later. And I would lift those weights every single day to get ready. And it just helped a lot. Because I knew like, I'm going to college because my parents can't afford to pay for college. So I gotta go. And football will be the ticket to get me there.
Frank, I want you to share with the people what it takes to achieve the goals that you achieved as far as your academic achievements through high school, through college. What type of classes did you have to take to become a sports agent, to get your BS and your law degree? Like, what type of classes? I know they were serious mathematics classes, technology, these STEM type of classes. What did it take for you to achieve these goals in your education, to empower yourself, to empower others?
Well, you know, education is always key. Like without education, you can't do anything at an elite level. Because no matter where you work at in the country, and I speak to young people about this all the time, your skill set is either going to open the door or it's going to prevent you from walking through the door. And that usually is from the foundation of education. So what you learn in high school could do one or two things. It could either open the door for college or to close the door for college. And I ask young people, do you want to work at a company where it doesn't require a lot of knowledge and they pay you a very little bit of money? Or you have a high level of knowledge and they pay you the dollar amount that you're worth? And most of them say the latter, which means that you're going to have to really be highly educated. And so I was educated in high school at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, and I was a part of the science option because they have science, engineering, and technology at Poly. I did the science option. And then when I went to Morgan State University, I had a BS in mathematics. And so I took a lot of math classes to carry over to get my mathematics degree at Morgan. And a lot of the classes in math really helped me today as an agent because, you know, math works on your analytical skills and how you think and how you prepare. And so though you may be taking a class that are dealing with formulas, it's not just about the formulas. It's about preparing your mind to think a certain way so that when you're challenged with a situation, you know how to think your way through that situation from the beginning to the end. And Morgan prepared me for that. You know, Morgan always challenged you to be the best student you could possibly be and always know your information better than anyone else. Because if you're the best at what you do, then you can work at the highest level. And I learned that at Morgan State University. And then after I finished Morgan, you know, I went on and I became a school teacher. And little did I know that being a school teacher was helping me to become an agent. The first high school where I worked was a 5-star high school for basketball. They were actually ranked nationally by USA Today, top 10 team. And they had 3 or 4 5-star athletes on this team who were earmarked to go to the NBA. But they had one issue. They weren't trained in academia. And they couldn't pass the SAT. And I helped them pass the SAT. And their parents were so happy because their sons were able to get this large scholarship to these major universities. And they asked me to work with their sons. And here it is. I'm a math teacher working with their sons, but former college athlete working with their sons. I'm thinking like, I'm just going to help this kid because I would want somebody to do that for my child.
That's right.
But their moms asked me to stay with their sons. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so I started researching about, well, what does an agent do? And I had a dream that I was actually going to be the kid's agent, but I didn't have a clue about what an agent does. And I looked it up and I applied to be an agent to the NFL and the NBA. I didn't get the NFL license right away. The first year that I tried in 2003. But as soon as I filled out the paperwork for the NBA, they sent me a license. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a school teacher. How did I get my license to be an NBA agent?
Look at God.
And he's opening doors, and he really wanted me to be an agent. It's on the NBA side. And then the following year, like I said, I got the NFL license, and so I got both of them in 2004. And I'm like, man, what do you do now?
Okay.
Because I didn't have any experience. But what do you do now? So I tried to work with different agencies, and nobody would hire me. Because they looked at me as if I was the competition. Because when you live in this Baltimore metropolitan area, Baltimore is known for high-level athletes.
Wow.
People from all over the country that are agents come here to try to recruit athletes. You got guys like Kevin Durant comes from this Central Maryland area.
That's right.
Carmelo Anthony was born and raised in this area. You got guys like Josh Selby and Will Barton and Rudy Gay. The list is long. Sam Cassell. You got David Wingate, the older guys. Reggie Williams.
That's
you got
right.
Reggie Lewis. Like all these guys. Marvin Webster. Like the list is long.
Yes, it is.
For guys from this area that really can play basketball at a high level. And so having that license and being in this area and being around, like, because I actually got my license the year after Carmelo got drafted. And I actually grew up with Carmelo's business manager. And so I saw it up close and personal. And I was like, you could see the things that were being done. And I knew I did not see anybody at the highest level working with the players once they became pros. I seen everybody connecting to the players, but nobody that could actually procure the deal once they became an NBA player. I was like, I got to do that.
That's right.
Because if no one is doing that, then we have to trust people that we don't know to help take care of these guys. And you got to understand that playing at an NBA level, those checks are more than their entire families have ever seen. And if you don't have the right people around, you know what happens with money and people that don't understand, the money's gone.
Take from you.
And I knew that I had, like, I felt the challenge. I felt the push. Like, looking back, I know that push was from God. Like, because he wanted me to be prepared to work with these guys. And the thing is, in order to work at the NFL level, you need a master's level degree. And that's how the University of Baltimore law degree came about. Because I didn't want to not have the credentials to work with the athletes, because you can get shut out. If you can't get the license, then you can't do the deals. And so I knew, like, I was going to do something to make sure that I can have the opportunity to work. And the doors just open. And God bless his soul. Like, my mentor is Elijah Cummings.
Wow.
You know, may he rest in peace now.
Yes.
Well, you know, when you come out of undergraduate, you have to qualify to go to a law school or pre-law school. I didn't qualify, but because of good mentorship, and he was on the board at the University of Baltimore.
Favor.
He told me, he said, Frank, I'll make this call if you make the promise to graduate. You do well and I'll make the call and we'll get you into school.
Wow.
And I graduated with honors. Like, my last semester at UB had a 4.0. My hardest semester before I graduated, I got 4 A's. And I'm actually one of the fastest people to actually go through the program in the history of that school. But I know it was, like I said, I wasn't working off of my own power. I felt the push of God saying, you have to do this because you have to be prepared. And that's the thing that I want young people to know. Like, whatever it is you're working on, you have to be prepared. Don't go into the situations not being prepared, because then you won't be able to operate at your highest level because you didn't do your part. Because faith without action, you know the rest is dead.
That's right, it's
You
dead.
have to have some action behind your faith. And part of having that action is always being prepared for what you may be presented with. And for young people, that usually starts with school. And so if you want to do something great, you really need to be a good student, because that signals to the companies that you're trustworthy and you know how to complete a task. And so if you don't do that, you can't expect this company to want to invest all the money into your career and you haven't put the work in that deserve that.